Hey folks, I want to share with you my first experience and experiment with Claude Cowork. But to do that, I need to go back a little bit and provide some background. So recently I took some PTO, and usually that's with lots of other people involved and it's chaos the whole time. But this time, at least part of it was a solo camping trip where I had a lot of time to think. And leading up to that had been about 6 months of just absolutely hammering on various AI coding agents and building applications as fast as I could. And what I eventually found was that there's still there's this threshold, there's this limitation to how fast I can build and how well I can build any one thing. So it's like me on my own, I'm not going to be able to spin up 100 apps I could spin up 100 apps in 100 days, let's say, but are they all going to make money? Are they all going to be things that I use? Maybe, maybe not. And so I came back from that PTO and I wrote this article. And I've decided to totally rethink the way that I create and then share what I create. And ultimately, what I'm trying to get to is more focus. So I want to move at the same speed. In fact, I actually want to move a little bit faster, but I want the output of what I do to be better. I mean, that's the easiest way to say it. I want it to be better. And so what I've said in this article that I have published on my website, which is seancdavis.com, is essentially that what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a weekly theme and we're going to drive it through video like this. Well, I'm going to record and distribute on social media, of course, like anything else. And then likely a lot of the videos will probably end up in blog format, potentially. And I've got this other problem with social media, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So what I did was I spent last week basically coming up with this strategy and what this was going to look like, but I don't know exactly how I'm going to execute it. So I decided that, hey, let's do week one as sort of like a meta week where we build the machine while we're practicing the machine at the same time. And so the theme for this week, I posted on Monday, was that I want to set up the foundation, basically like the infrastructure, the mechanism that will help me publish daily. And the goal ultimately is that I spend a maximum of 1 hour every day and that I end up with something that is publishable in video format and distributable or promotable in ways that can be done in a more automated sort of sense. And what that should ultimately get me to is, I would say on the average week, it's going to be 3, maybe some weeks will be 5 pieces of published content. And alongside that, they're going to be fueled by this one theme. So I will also hopefully, along with the content itself, which is what I'm sharing and distributing, should also have something that I've built that may or may not be shareable, but it might also in some cases be self-serving. Now, yesterday, I was also starting to kind of like get deeper into doing the research in hopes of recording a video on day one. Now, it didn't happen. And the reason it didn't happen was because I got way too deep into the research, because what I came to find was that as I was working with OpenClaw yesterday, all of a sudden it didn't work. And I was a little late to the game, but I discovered that you can't use Claude Code subscriptions with OpenClaw anymore. And I know it's been the talk of the town, it's been the drama this week, and I don't need to comment on those moves and you know, all of the drama. I'm going to leave that out of it, but just say, look, I'm not using OpenClaw for anything that I couldn't just write another tool to do. And this change dramatically affects me. I was kind of watching the usage, and I'm estimating that that's going to it's going to increase my Claude spend by somewhere between 3 and 5 times what I'm spending today. And OpenClaw is not doing anything, like It's cool. It's very convenient. I love it. I'm a huge fan of it. But is it worth $1,000 a month to me? Probably not. Not when I could probably take a week and spin up something else that would, in theory, fit the terms of use of Claude Code, um, and keep going. Now, there's another path here, of course, where I can say, well, what if I switch to the OpenAI platform? What if I try using Codex with OpenClaw? I posted something on Twitter yesterday and got some feedback to try Hermes as an example. And eventually that'll probably die the same fate, but it might be an interim solution. Anyways, there's lots of options there. But where my research yesterday ultimately took me is really what I wanted to do was form this mental model of, okay, what am I actually using OpenClaw for? And how, in the context of this week, how can we build this content engine so that I can record video and stay really focused and not get totally bogged down in all the like prep, publishing, distribution, all of that stuff. So, because for those of you that don't record videos, and if you do, you know this, if you want to put out a 10-minute video, a video like this, usually that's going to mean 20 to 30 minutes when you include setup, recording, and all of that. But then when you take into account editing, creating the artwork, and distributing, and promoting, and sharing, there's some people screaming outside. That it's okay. It's totally normal. It happens at this time every single day. That 30 minutes of recording balloons into 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and all of a sudden getting a 10-minute video out every day becomes this huge burden. So as I was researching yesterday, I started to form this new mental model. And here's how I'm working today. This at least is the new framework that I want to take moving forward. I'm going to experiment with what it looks like to stay within the Claude ecosystem. I am established there, and I want to see what happens here. Okay, so with that caveat in mind, I'm thinking Claude Cowork is for these repeatable tests, and as I'm digging into this, I'm really finding that Cowork is a great name for it because it feels sort of like a synchronous thing. Yeah, it has. You can defer things to the cloud. You can have scheduled tasks, but I think the mental model I really like is this is your, for lack of a better term, co-pilot. Your co-pilot's not going to go fly the plane without you, right? It's there. You are also in the cockpit, and you just need some help getting from point A to point B. And so that's what I'm going to plan on using Claude Cowork for, at least for now. It's things I'm already in front of the computer. I just want to move faster. OpenClaw can remain for now for quick messages. And I will have a future video that digs into everything that I'm doing with OpenClaw. And it's not anything earth-shattering. The typical use case for me is that I want to capture some sort of structured, it might be loosely structured content. And so I build these frameworks and these rules. And the really important thing, or the value that OpenClaw gets me, is that anywhere I am, so for example, one thing I'm using it for right now is a food journal. And the value of OpenClaw is it doesn't matter where I am. I can open up Telegram. I can say, I'm eating this right now, and boom, it goes into that thing. So it's available everywhere, and those rules are already set up, and I feel like that's really great. And I'm probably going to look at what building a really thin wrapper around Claude Code looks like, probably on that same machine that can use the Claude Code subscription, and it's just a simple little Telegram bot. And then Claude Code itself, I use synchronously for some of that, really heavy development work. And then I've also talked a little bit recently about the custom agent team that I've built, which I call Rocktree. And and of course, Netlify agent runners, as well as two different mechanisms and entry points into more like ad hoc async coding tasks. I think Netlify agent runners has a lot of other use cases that I will use and explore through my Netlify work. And there's a lot of other really valuable use cases that just aren't for me, especially as it relates to the side project. So with that in mind, I said, okay, cool. I've got this mental model now. And now it's time to dig into Cowork, because ultimately achieving this week's goal is going to mean getting comfortable with Cowork. But what I want to do over the next couple of days is really pretty intense. So I wanted to kind of like dip my toe into the water. So that brings me back to the challenge with social media. I am horrible at social media. I've always been horrible at social media. And we could dig into why that is. I can tell you pretty clearly it is because, more than anything, I don't want to spend 4 hours a day on social media. I want to be building. I want to be interacting with my teammates. I want real authentic engagement and real authentic conversations. And I just don't think it happens in it's okay. It's a long story. We could go down the rabbit hole, but I've done more work on social media in the last 3 months, probably 6 months, than I ever have in my career. And I'm seeing almost less engagement than I ever have in my career. The algorithms are not serving me in the way I want to work, and I just don't want to be on those platforms for 4 hours a day. And this is a problem that I've had for many years, and I've tried to find different processes and solutions, and I've tried to build different tools over the years to help me solve this problem. Now, we've got all these AI tools at our disposal, and I thought, well, could I build something that would solve this problem? I've talked a lot this year about building the this being the era of the personal app. I have a post somewhere from here. It is the era of the personal app, and one of my arguments here is that it's so easy for anybody to spin up an application that there's no reason that you shouldn't build your own application that solves your own problems. And I still very much believe that. And that's where I went to with this app I called Pare Down, where I was basically like, okay, I've got these lists on Twitter and other sources. And basically what I want to do is I want to bring them in and I want to ingest them. And then I want to run them through various filters based on context and have AI evaluate whether or not I should pay attention to this particular message. And this worked. It worked. It's a little clunky. And I had all these ideas about like, this is how I want to iterate on this thing. So, we can see it brings these posts in. I can jump right to them. I can mark them as done. I can skip them. And I've got an AI issue right now here, but generally what it would do is provide a little analysis there that based on my context, why it got the score that it got. But to me, I was thinking about, okay, where do I start as it relates to Claude, something that Claude Cowork can do really effectively. And one of the first things I thought of was replace this thing. This is a little clunky. And I was starting to think a little bit about when would I build an application with AI capabilities versus when would Claude Cowork be a better fit? And I'm sure my opinion on this will change as I spend more time with it. But right out of the gate, the two things that came to mind were, one, do I need to collaborate or distribute this in this actual mechanism in some way? So for this particular app, if I wanted to open this up to more people, that would make it a great candidate for continuing down this path. Or if it were like, hey, we've got a company Twitter account, we want to coordinate on that, makes way more sense to be an app. Another thing has to do with the entry point availability and not repetitiveness, but maybe schedule more than anything. And that was actually something that drove me away from this, was that it doesn't matter if this thing is bringing in content multiple times every day and filtering it if I'm not at the computer to do anything about it. And that, to me, is why Cowork makes sense there, because I can just say, all right, cool. Started my day now at this particular time because this is my schedule today. So let's do a quick analysis on what's out there. And then maybe I'll hit it near the end of my day again. And so this is what I did. And I worked throughout the morning to kind of look at what this process really should be. And ultimately, I now not just have it reading. Oh, yeah, you know what? Before I get here, there's one other thing, which is the Twitter API costs money, and it's really, really, really expensive. It's absurdly expensive. And there are wrappers around it that are either as the same, I mean, they're expensive, or there are scrapers, but then the scrapers kind of, they're finicky. And so ultimately I was paying $30 a month for this other service that was essentially just scraping. And the list had to be public because of that, which was a whole other problem. And so it just felt like, this doesn't feel right. So I end up here. And so I can go back to private lists. I can also then say, hey, I want to discover content in this way, but I want the discovery mechanism itself to be dynamic. So today that might be searching Claude Code news, but tomorrow it might be, hey, we hear there's some more chatter on Gemini, so maybe we want to start to look and try to discover people that are creating examples with Gemini. Who knows? I'm just totally spitballing there. But I've got that. So there's the ingestion, there's the discovery, there's the analysis, and then it also can open me up to getting back to Blue Sky, to getting over to LinkedIn, and the idea being that potentially, eventually, I don't even log into those services. Now, I'm sure I will have to, and there will be some benefit to that, particularly in responding to notifications and that sort of thing. I'm not aiming to be a robot. I'm just trying to filter all of the noise so that I can interact with the people I really care about and the content that I really care about. And so this ran, and then what it output was a page that actually, without me giving it any instruction, looks kind of similar to this structure. We've got all these posts, and it's doing some really cool things that I wasn't previously doing. Like it's we've got filtering for where the content was discovered from, and we also have when it discovers a potential new account to follow, it kind of flags that and then looks for feedback from me on whether I found that person, that content really relevant. We're gonna maintain some memory from day to day, so that if we see someone pop up 2 or 3 times and I'm responding positively to that, and then we say, hey, maybe that's worth a follow. And we'll see. I'm expecting this to change pretty dramatically over the next few days, but that's just one example of how I'm using Cowork today. And now I'm recording this video in kind of a meta way so that I can take this video and then start to build the Cowork flow for distributing the video, which I'm aiming to start tomorrow, and then hopefully be able to record another video to share that process, and so on and so on. And then we achieve the goal this week or something. I don't know, but that's it. That's the first example for me of Cowork. I'm really excited about it. I'd heard about it and I kind of passed it off as like, well, it's not for developers. I'm just going to leave it alone. And honestly, I think it's way more useful than I thought it would be. And it's interesting because I don't see it as necessarily a direct one-to-one replacement of OpenClaw, but instead another tool in the toolbox. And if I can continue to develop those and have that strong mental model without ultimately without fragmenting all the entry points, so that I can not overload my brain. That's ultimately what I want to get to. It's like I want to be able to do more, but we've got to enable these tools to do more without increasing the cognitive load on me, because I'm already well over capacity in that sense. So we'll see how this goes. But it has me excited about, yet another iteration on my personal workflow. So I will continue to update you all. That's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.